Hi, and welcome to the Free Your Spirit podcast. I'm your guide, Carole Frey, founder of Free Spirited Wanderer, a conscious wellness business of yoga retreats, lifestyle coaching, and yoga teacher mentorship. In this podcast, we explore conscious business, yoga on and off the mat, and general lifestyle. Our aim is to help you live a more fulfilling and purposeful life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, yoga student, yoga teacher, or simply someone looking to make positive changes in your daily life. Join us as we share insights, tips, and stories to inspire you on your path to a more free-spirited life. So sit back, relax, and let's embark on a journey of self-discovery, adventure, and expansion. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Free Your Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Carole Frey. This week's episode is Urban Sadhana. Is your yoga practice missing the treasure of this ancient technology? And today we have a really special guest on talking about this episode, Johnna Smith. And Johnna Smith has been my teacher since 2017. I met her in a yoga studio in Charlotte and then started taking her Ashtanga classes. And just within probably like 2 practices or so, I really felt like I found my teacher. And ever since then, I've just really been enjoying learning from her and practicing with her. She has helped me so much within my life and where I am today. And I've also done pretty much any other type of workshop or training she offers. I try to do as much as I can with her. But I'm just really excited for you to get to experience her today, just because she has helped me and so many other people like so much within my life and their life. And yeah, I'm really excited to bring her on. So Johnna, welcome. How are you doing today?
Wow, thank you, Carole. I feel welcomed and I'm doing really good. Yeah, thanks for asking, and thanks so much for having me. This is an honor and a treat, and so thank you.
So, yeah, you were when I first started thinking about this podcast, you were the very first guest that I thought of that I wanted to have on. And anytime I think of a topic on yoga, I'm always like, okay, who should my guest be? And I always think of you first. And I'm like, well, I can't have her on for every single topic. But I'm really excited to talk about sadhana today. And yeah, I'm just super excited to have you. So before we dive in, I would love for you to share with our listeners just a little bit about yourself and how you got here today.
Oh, wow. So how did I get here? What a great question. Number one, I got here, I know that you wanted to do podcasts, and I was so encouraging for you to do it. I'd never really realized that I would be necessarily sitting in this spot. This is actually the first podcast I've ever done. So I can see how I got there. But as far as like yoga and teaching yoga and meeting you and everything that came before that, I think, we all have stories on how we grew up, and we all have things that change us and mark us and kind of direct the journey of our life. And I think for me, this whole life in yoga has been directed and began by me having panic as a little baby. And I'm just going to start right in. Anxiety as a child. And I remember riding around with a cousin when I was like 10 or 11, and this song came on. Do you remember that song, If You Like Pina?
Oh, yeah. I remember from Shrek.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, this was way before Shrek. This was like a long time ago. But in this song, there was something about yoga, and I asked my cousin, like, what does that mean, yoga? And she goes, it's something that hippies do to relax. And for some reason, I always remember that. I don't know if it's because I cherished that cousin or if I just remember this memorial, like, ride in this convertible. But later on, when I was like, 14, 15 years old, 16, I thought, okay, I'm having all this anxiety. Yoga is supposed to help. Now, just remember that conversation. So I go to my local library and I ask for, a yoga book. And all they had there was Mr. Iyengar's, BKS Iyengar's Light on Yoga. And so in that book, Light on Yoga, readers or listeners get it if you haven't. And within each posture is a description of what the asana will gift you with, or some outcome energetically that you'll have. So, of course, I pour through this book, and the number one asana for relaxation was Shavasana. And so my little, I can't remember, 15, 16-year-old booty laid down on my bedroom floor, tried to assume the state of Shavasana. And it didn't work. You got to do all this other stuff for the relaxation of what Mr. B.K.S. Iyengar talked about, this ease, this peace. You have to do so much before that starts to kick in. And so it was probably another 6 years, 7 years before I found yoga in 1995. And maybe in 96 took my first Ashtanga class. And that Ashtanga class that day was the first day that I did not have a panic attack in as long as I can remember. And so isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I couldn't explain it then. And it's more of a feeling that I have now, this beautiful thing. So I knew there was something to it. And to go to a yoga class meant that I couldn't be hungover the next day. So it began this beautiful journey of sobriety, this beautiful journey of cleaning up what I do at night so as to feel good the next morning to get my ass to class or to get my ass to the mat wherever I am on the planet. And so, I thank my cousin in that song. I wish I knew the singer that song right now, because, that just started, that was the beginning of my journey of how I ended up here. It brought me so much peace in my heart, just that first Ashtanga yoga class. And I practiced for a few years, took David Swenson's teacher's training. I'm going to mention a lot of teachers because it's important to me to be a student. It's important to me to respect those who have taught me all that they have so that I can be here now. So you're going to hear a lot of probably me mentioning my teacher this, my teacher that. They're all my teachers. You're my teacher. But through David Swenson, took some teacher trainings from him, and he mentioned Mysore, India, and how Pattabhi Jois, you could go study with the guy who really made the guru of Ashtanga yoga. And that was in like 99. He told me about it to say at the Southern Star for listeners, old school listeners out there. And so I did. I made my way to Mysore, India in 2004 for the first time, studied with Pattabhi Jois, and it was amazing. Like, to go study over there, I had to write a letter. There wasn't internet like there is today. You did not have to apply online. You actually, at the time, wrote a very, for me, formal letter. Dear Honorable Sir, I would be very blessed if I could come study with you August through, it was for 2 months in Mysore and another month elsewhere in India. But I just wrote this letter and bought a plane ticket
Awesome.
and showed up at his door when I said that I would. And he asked, like, did you mail the letter? Did you email or not email? Did you mail the letter? I said, yeah. And he pulled out from this huge bookshelf behind him, Carole, oh my gosh, huge bookshelf with ledgers of different sizes. Some, the spine was showing, others, they were just flat. So I don't know how he picked it out of this just large amount of what looked to be chaos. Just pulled a ledger out, opened it up, put it on his desk, opened it up, went, halfway through the book, went halfway down the page, and he was like, Johnna Smith, yes, you're here. And wrote in something, I don't know what, and I just started practicing and did that for a few months, and then, traveled a little bit in India, which is also wonderful, and decided in that trip that I would go back every other year. And I have done that, except for when COVID happened. That messed me up a little bit, but I've gone back and, touched the feet of my teachers, Ma India, and just, did this sadhana that I said that I would, that I kind of committed to, mostly, I think, unconsciously, and it's just spilled out very materially and very consciously in my life. Yeah. That was a long answer to a very brief question.
No, that's great. I mean, I feel like I mean, I'm always so interested in just hearing like about your story and the things that you've done and the trainings. And, I love that you mentioned that you're going to be talking about your teachers a lot, because that was something I just always really admired you for, is that you just always talked about your teachers. And when you would share things, you would try to reference them. And, you always make the point to say that, you didn't make any of this up, and you are just like sharing what you've heard from your teachers and their teachers and their teachers. And I just really admire that, because I feel like it just helps us come back to, the root of yoga and just like really honoring yoga as well. So I just love that you do that. And I love hearing about it. So I guess before we dive into the questions, one of the other things, just sidetracking a little bit, how did you know that you wanted to teach Ashtanga? And I know you also teach Vinyasa and some other things as well. But from like your time in India, was there something that just made you like want to come home and start sharing Ashtanga? Or?
I mean, it was clear to me that made the biggest impact in my life. And so I think I can speak from that impact, from that change, from that power that Ashtanga yoga lit up in me, more so than the other styles of yoga that I learned. And, I'm curious, I think most people fall in love with the first yoga that changed them, whatever style that is. There are many, many, many styles of yoga. As many personalities as there are on the planet, there are styles of yoga. So there's something for each of us. But Ashtanga yoga is that one that changed me the most from the very beginning. Then I took Vinyasa yoga, or then I took Hatha, more yoga as it's taught by the Himalayan Institute, Pandit Rajamani Tuganayat, Rod Stryker. And but Ashtanga was the one that really, how can I say, attended to my anxiety. And I think it's because of the rhythm, the routine of Ashtanga yoga. So my excess vata, my anxiety calmed because of Ashtanga's built-in routine. And if I can give anybody that little bit of calm, that little bit of routine, sadhana, that is what I'm here for. If one person could be affected. And so I think I answered your question.
Yeah. No, and I think that's great. And, even hearing you say that, I almost feel like that's the reason that I was so drawn to you and Ashtanga in the first place also, because I feel like I could sense that and like feel that within you. And I could just feel like the passion that you had for this practice, and just like how, you kind of would share. That's the thing I love about Mysore, is you kind of get these little, one-on-one and private sessions, I feel like. So I was able to learn more about you, but because of that, you helped me with like in my practice and within a sharing Ashtanga. But I feel like I could just like feel that you were like so lit up by sharing Ashtanga. And I feel like I could like, I don't know, I guess maybe sense in a way that it changed you. And I don't know, I feel like I was just drawn to that. And I feel like then I started realizing like how much of an impact this practice had on my life too. Because I feel the same way, like this practice has had more of an impact on my life than anything else that I've done. But I don't know, maybe that's one of the reasons I was drawn to you in the beginning, because I just feel like I could feel that, and you just felt like such a safe, like stable, amazing teacher. But anyways, just, little sidetrack on that. But so let's dive into the questions that I have. And for everyone that doesn't know, so a lot of people might not be familiar with this word sadhana. So let's just start with, what is sadhana?
Sadhana is a conscious spiritual practice that has results and that has an aim. Yeah, like a sadhana. I went to yoga, right, the first time because I was dragged by a friend, right? She was about to take her LSATs, and she's like, "You want to take yoga with me?" And I just thought it was something fun to do before I went out that night. And it was amazing. And she wanted to calm her mind. That was her goal. She wanted to get embodied instead of inheaded and do well on her LSAT so that she could go be the badass lawyer that she is today. Yes. The idea of having a goal in mind, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika talks about people coming to yoga by being burned from one of three different fires: scorched, burned, like owie, like something is not feeling good in my life. So I need to see if I'm aware enough, if I have the quality of mind that can sense that I'm suffering and actually want to do something about it. Sometimes people just sit in suffering, not realizing it, not dawning on them that, oh, there is a way out of suffering. So blessed be to any of us that can be in a quality of mind that says, oh, I'm suffering. Maybe there is a way to not have this kind of suffering. So anyway, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika says you can be scorched by the fire of physical pain, and that will bring you to yoga. And this physical pain could be, oh, I don't like the way my body feels. If I am healthier in my body, then I'll feel healthier. Or this physical pain can be, oh, I have back injury. Someone tells me I should go do yoga, and then there you are. Physical pain could be, oh, I want to get in better shape and look better in clothes. Like, okay, go get yoga. All of these things physically can bring people to yoga. And then there is the mental emotional fire, the mental emotional pain that brings someone to yoga. And that was definitely me. Whether there's too much worry and not enough sleep, maybe yoga will help. Too much ruminating thoughts, can't get any space between it, maybe yoga will help. All too much anxiety or too much depression, maybe yoga will help. And that can bring us into a yoga practice. And then the third is spiritual pain, spiritual suffering, wanting to more and more get back to that original loss, back to the connection with the divine. And that will bring someone to yoga. So a sadhana kind of tends to one of those three fires you've been burned by. Where is your healing? Where is your ability to come back into wholeness, into wellness, into stasis, both body, mind, and spirit? So sadhana is putting together internal and external forces of your life so as to get back to that thing you want. And it can be material, it can be spiritual, right? What is it that you want? And do interior practices, exterior practices to get to that goal. And once you get to the goal, then you may want a new goal, which is very human, right? We attain something. All we do is, oh, I got it. Now I'm going to go reach for something else. So then new goals follow. And so maybe the sadhanas change and shift with that. Does that answer your question about sadhana? Sadhana, it old school, like some of the ways that it was described as far as definitions, there's a few people who say that sadhana can mean treasure or wealth, or like coming from the root word dhana, treasure or wealth or something precious, riches. Like there's something in there that's even underneath the first outcome you get, right? But sadhana, it's a tool. It's typically defined in Sanskrit as a tool or as a practice to achieve goals or getting directly to the goal, to get to the goal faster.
Awesome. I love that. And so with the three burns you talked about, can people feel like they have more than one burn? Like, can they have all three burns, or is it typically, what do you find? Is it typically one, or people probably feel like they have all three, but
it's very interesting. Because the Hatha Yoga Pradipika also says, if someone is burned physically, you need practices that are physical, you need practices that are mental, emotional, and you need practices that are spiritual. If you're burned mental, emotional, you need practices for the mental emotion as well as the spirit. And if you're burned spiritually, you need practices that help tend to, that heal, that nurture, that support, that cool off the fire that is burning in the spiritual realm. So very, very likely you have more than one.
Yeah. I love that. And then
likely throughout your life, those are going to change and morph. Some go, some leave, only to come back again.
Yeah.
But you're going to say I interrupt.
No. That makes sense too. I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because I think that's also a question that people do have. And that's something I've thought of before too, where you feel like, okay, I came here for this reason, and now I feel like I've kind of gotten an understanding, or I've achieved that reason. And then you shift and move to something else, and then something else happens in your life and you may come back to that reason. For me, I think about injuries that I've had and things like that as well, and ways that I can heal deeper, like mentally as well. Anyways, but I've just noticed how it's shifted in my life too. So I love that you, brought that up and said that. And I guess the other thing I was going to ask too, so one of the things I think is super cool with yoga is that it's different for so many people, right? So you talk about, people. So people find the practices, say that they were burned physically. Now, what feels healing and nourishing can be different for different people, right? Like you and I love Ashtanga, so that can be that healing and nourishing for us, where someone else might need like a Hatha yoga or a yin practice. Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know. I always think that that's cool that you get to kind of, pick your own path within yoga, and that there's so many different, ways that we can heal and nourish ourselves. So,
I mean, I love that because it's like, it's not the practice doing the practice that we're trying to pay attention to. It's how do we feel after? And so what is the post-digestive effect of the practice that we're doing? If, you may need an Ashtanga yoga practice to finally get to that place of feeling more serene, more purified, more sattvic, both in spirit and in mind, more being able to be with reality as it is in an easy way, right? Whereas that might be poison to some other student, some other practitioner. That might be the opposite of what they need. Maybe they need, and I'm going to say it, and it's very controversial, maybe they need a hot power yoga class with banging club music to get them there. And I'm going to have to let that be okay, because I am not the all-knowing Ishwara, right? Like I am so individual with my own like filters, and I can't understand everything yet, right? So many practices for many practitioners. And one of the things that we want to look for is that after practice, there is more ease. There is more ability to handle the small stressors in life, the ability to stay within, the window of tolerance if we're speaking about the nervous system, not freaking out as much, not feeling like we're a little ball in a pinball machine getting banged around. And so if your practices are doing that, then wonderful. And if they're not, maybe you want to look at them. My teacher, Rod Stryker, used to say, or still says, that your yoga practice is working for you and with you and is benefiting you by 3 measures. The first, do you walk with less fear?
Sounds nice.
Right? Like, can we ask for more than that? Are we walking the earth with less fear? And then if I have less fear, that means I'm in more faith. I'm in more love. I'm in more a place of doubtlessness. Yeah. And less worry. And I mean, I don't know about you, but that sounds good to me. And I think that sounds really good for all of society right now. So number 1, do you walk with less fear? Number 2, do you wake up in the morning with joy without having reason to have it? Whoa. Yeah. Like, do I wake up? Maybe I'm springing out of bed, or maybe it's a nice leisurely like crawl out today for Moon Day. So I slept in and had a leisure morning with other practices. But do I have, joy when I wake up without needing a reason to have it? And then the third is, your yoga practice, your sadhana is working for you if when you want something and the time you get it, the two shorten, like they're very close to one another. And for me, that means there's less distraction. There's less pull from other directions, right? Worry pulls us. We spend a lot of time both worrying and then taking practices that have not as beneficial results, like doom scrolling.
Oh, yeah.
To relax the mind.
Yeah.
Right? Both of those things. First, I'm worrying, spending a lot of time. Second, I'm doom scrolling to feel better about the worry. I'm not tending to my goal at all. I'm treading water with those two things. So when you want something and the time you get it, the time between the two shortens. I think there's a level of focus, that there's a level of dharana, a level of, commitment to the practice. But there has to be some sort of, you've cleared away some of the cobwebs. You've cleared out the junk drawers. You've got your practices working for you, and you're doing the practice. So different people's practices, perfect. but we know by the outcome. We're not practicing for that day. We're practicing for when life likes us. Yes. And so those are the things that we look for in yoga. Whatever your practice is, maybe it's not even asana. Maybe it's knitting. Maybe, maybe it's running. Maybe it's planting whatever the practice is, by its outcome. Yeah.
I love that. That's so awesome. And that, like, hearing that type of stuff gets me excited too. So I always love talking about this. I could keep going on with this one question, but I'll move on to the next one. So who is sadhana for?
Who is sadhana for? I want to say everybody, but it should not. It's not for you, right? The only should, I had another teacher, Baron Baptiste, and he would say the only should you should have is you should not be resigned. Yes? You should always know that you have the power within you to pick yourself up, that you do not have to stay resigned in the current place that you are if you don't want to be there. And so I think a sadhana is excellent for someone who realizes that maybe they have been living in a resigned way, and it's time for them to put the big curl pants on and get up and do something about it. To not just sit in the comfort zone, to not just, as Pandit Rajmani Tugendite said, don't live like a dead person. Live like a live person. Yes? This talk of Spirit of the Vedas. And it's a wonderful talk. Highly recommend it. You can find it, I think, on Spotify and on Amazon Audible books, but it's called The Spirit of the Vedas. And that thing pumps me up every time I listen to it.
That's awesome.
And it's don't live like a dead person, right? You have what you have inside of you, what you need to go and live and enjoy this life and find happiness. Don't depend on other people to create that for you. Don't depend on your past to have made it for you. And don't depend on some unknown future to create it for you. You have what you need right this minute. And so sadhana is for somebody whom we would say in the qualities of mind is in a vikshepta quality of mind, meaning, wow, there's something I want and I can do something about it. I want more joy. I want more peace. I want more ease, and I can do something about it. Sadhana is for that person. Yeah.
I love that. Yes. So basically anyone who wants it, it's for.
Yeah.
You have to want it. Yeah. Awesome.
Can't make a horse drink the water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can't, as much as, as I'm a proselytizer somewhat for Ashtanga yoga, it's not for everybody. So yeah, let them be there. We'll work on ours. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that. So then why do you think it's important for yoga students to have a sadhana?
I don't know that I do think it's important for yoga students to have a yoga sadhana. Again, some people come to yoga that they only want the short-term effect. They only want to feel better, physically. They only want to hang out with friends. And that's beautiful. They can do that. I don't necessarily think every yoga student who comes in the door has a yoga sadhana.
Right.
And totally cool. Yeah. I do believe that it has a way of seeping in, right? You surround yourself with it long enough that it will start to sink in. But yeah, I don't, yoga students don't have to be meditating. They don't have to be yoga asana practitioners. Now, I have a girlfriend who jokingly says they're not yogis, they're asanis, right? And that's maybe for a different podcast. But no, a whole sadhana, you don't have to do that. It's not required to still get benefit from a yoga class.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that, and I mean, I always love hearing different perspectives and hearing that. And, I also think that there's an element, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this too, is I think that there's so many people that don't have an understanding of, what sadhana is or what even, the overall yoga practice is. So I'm always just interested to have some of these conversations because I do feel like I think a lot of people come to yoga, I was really interested in the philosophy of it, but, I know a lot of people are really fascinated. I heard some people handstands. They saw a handstand and they were like, ooh, I'm really interested in learning how to do that. okay, that's great. So I think some people have this understanding of, okay, it's flexibility and I hear it's going to bring peace and calm my mind. And then I feel like there is a level for some people that then are like, oh, I didn't realize that this is a breathing practice and that there's a whole philosophy and this originated in India. So it's always interesting, I think, to see like how people show up to yoga and then also maybe see, what happens and how it evolves. So maybe there is an element that some people don't have an understanding of what yoga is and they just come for the physical practice, and then maybe they do want a sadhana later, right? Or I guess you're also saying that maybe some people don't and that's okay too. They can still practice. Yeah, right? I guess is that it?
Absolutely. It's because remember, sadhana is using every part of your life for your well-being, every part. And I make jokes about the donut aisle at our local grocery store. Maybe there's some things in our life that we're not really willing to sacrifice. And for example, I have girlfriends who drink wine every day and they know they don't feel good and they still do it. And they even talk about maybe the discussion and maybe time will show that they will back up off of that. But I think a sadhana is really taking on, wow, this doesn't serve. And I want every aspect of my life to be in the effort of coming back to that well-being in body, mind, and spirit. And so that means how we wake up in the morning. Part of the sadhana, as in Ayurveda, we would call it dinacharya, that I'm going to say a little prayer. Carole, I don't know about you, but sometimes I wake up, oh my gosh, like a feral, rageful cat. And I got to do things in the morning that get me back to, oh yeah, I got to do all my prayers. I got to do all my meditations. I got to do my turmeric and lemon water and oil bathing. Like, these are just certain things that this earth suit still gets and has to do to start to feel well-being in my day so that I can live my day, that by the end of it, I lived it intentionally and I lived it in a way that will lead me for the next day to be in alignment with what I really want to be in alignment with. Like, I don't want to be every morning in alignment with anger and live my day that way. That's a conscious choice I'm making. Yeah. And that's the one thing that we have control over, our thoughts. And that's what, it's what the whole Yoga Sutras, can you have more mastery over the mind, more mastery over the way that we let the thoughts traipse through our head, the chitta vrittis. And so every morning I have to get with, okay, here are the chitta vrittis. Now, some mornings are easier than others and some mornings are worse than others, but it's a conscious effort to not just say, fuck it, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
And I love that you say that too, because I think, it's like every single day, so people that you see like, doing the things that you're inspired by, right? Or someone that just, gets up and does their yoga practice, or, maybe you're someone who wants to meditate and you see this person gets up and meditates every day or whatever it is. I think that sometimes we forget that the people that do that, it doesn't come easy. Like, you have to consciously make that decision every morning. Like, I don't want to wake up at 4:45 in the morning and drive 30 minutes to go to Ashtanga. I don't want to do that. But like what you're saying, I have to talk myself out of the fact that like, I don't just wake up and be like, oh my gosh, yay, let's go to Ashtanga, but it's like, I go because I know it makes my day so much better, and I know that when I sleep in later, I wake up feeling exhausted and fatigued. And when I wake up and like work on myself and do those practices, like I can move through my day so much better. And like you said, you get in alignment, but it's like every single day you have to make that choice and be very conscious of that choice. And I don't know, I think, yes, it gets easier, but it's still every single day you have to make the effort, and it's continuous.
Well, I know in my earth suit, right, in this physical form that I'm in currently, I found in the past the way that I would try to feel better about my day was through drugs and alcohol. And, I had a heart attack from cocaine abuse at 16.
Wow.
And I never did cocaine after that. But alcohol became the poisonous medicine that I would do to self-medicate. And it's so maladaptive, right? Other people overshop, spend excess money, and then have to suffer the consequences. Some people have sex with inappropriate people that don't respect or love them and have to suffer the consequences. Some people gamble. Some people, I don't know, what else do we do? Calculate how many more shows can I watch right before I have to get up. And, I still do that way.
Yeah.
But, on some level, at some point, I think that everybody wants to feel better. And we want to look at, do our choices truly benefit? The choices that we make to feel better, are they long-lasting beneficial, or are they short-term maladaptive? Yeah. Short-term feel better, but long-term it's wrecking my life. So if I don't get up and do my practices, those seeds of what a long time ago were planted, looking for maladaptive ways to feel better, try to feel better on the inside by something from the outside. Those little seeds, they're not gone, right? I wish they were. It's not. That's just not how it works. Yeah. So it's very likely for me, if I don't do these things that I know that work and keep my life on track and keep my heart open and my perspective from love and from the sweetness of life, it'll be very easy for me to go back to say this life is not sweet. It's everybody else's fault. And all of these ways where I'm not really taking ownership of my own life. It'd be so easy for me. Other people wouldn't be that easy. For me, it is. Yeah. And so getting up and doing the practices, whatever they are, just to get to that state, that has a sweetness. The post-digestive effect is sweet. That's what I look out for. If by the end of the day, it feels sweet, like, I was paying attention, right? And it feels sweet, it's nice. If I see myself gobbling up a lot of chocolate candy, I'm like, oh, today didn't end so sweet. And so I'm eating the chocolate. So we do that. If we don't feel the sweetness from life, we're going to try to pull the sweetness in other ways. Oftentimes maladaptive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing that I love. I feel like when you find those practices that work for you, it also cleans up the other areas of your life that you didn't know it would. And I think, for me, I talk about this a lot. And, I was doing like hot vinyasa classes for the longest time. And that's what I taught. And that's what I knew, even though I started with Ashtanga and Hatha. So it was like completely opposite, and then moved to North Carolina. And I was like, what is this hot vinyasa that everyone is doing? And I was doing it for a while, and I got to the point where I just started feeling really complacent with it. I feel like I wasn't being challenged, and I wasn't learning the things that I feel like I wanted. I don't even know what it was, but I was like seeking something that I wasn't getting. And also with doing that, I didn't have a set time I was going. So I could stay up late, drink cheap wine, eat too much, food the night before, watch too much TV, and then wake up, and like have a morning that was just rushed. And I just remember being exhausted all the time. I was so fatigued. My digestion was awful and all these other things. So I remember when I started going to Ashtanga, when I met you in 2017, and like slowly, because for the longest time I knew about you, and I was like, I can't wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm not doing that. And then finally I was like, okay, something in my life needs to change. I'm not getting what I think I want out of this practice, and I'm not the teacher I feel like I could be. So I feel like when I found Ashtanga, I was like, okay, if I'm going to wake up at 4:30, what do I need to do? I need to go to bed earlier. I can't drink cheap wine or not drink as much wine, starting off, like you go slow with it, and then eating healthier or eating like lighter, I think it was. So it was interesting because I feel like, I guess maybe in a way I was seeking that, and I didn't even know that until I found like the practice that worked for me, if that makes sense. So I think that's what I really liked about when I found Ashtanga. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many areas of my life that are improving that I didn't even know were really going to improve. I don't know. And then I feel like that just set the path for me. Like, okay, what else? I don't know. What were the other possibilities? Like, what else can happen? And I think for me, that was one of the things that I could start seeing, like, oh, this is really good for me. I don't know. But yeah. So Okay.
In Ayurveda, they say what we do the night before, a large day in the night before. Everything we do the night before matters to the next day. It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's like once that light bulb went off in my head, I couldn't turn the light off.
Right. Yeah.
Right. The light was on. Can't turn it off. I'm aware now. And I can't plead ignorance. So yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Okay. So for people that are interested in having a sadhana, how can they discover their sadhana?
Oh, that's a great question. Go to your teacher. Go to your teacher. Find a teacher. And I know that my teacher, Rod Stryker, would say, like, back in the old days, when there were sadhu, there's still sadhus. But for example, a sadhana would be got this way. A student would want to learn yoga, and that includes the meditation, and that includes the shastras and the teachings from these gorgeous spiritual books, and from teachers and lineage and teachers and parampara. So they would find a teacher. Someone would find a teacher, and it's like, okay, the teacher and student would have a conversation, and that conversation would reveal what's in the heart of the student, ideally, right? Ideal scenario. Be it by words or by feeling tone or intuition, the teacher would understand what the student needed. This is old school, okay? The teacher would understand what the student needed and would give a practice. And the teacher would give, maybe an asana practice, a food practice, did I already say asana? Asana,
Yeah.
Food, meditation, pranayama practice potentially. Maybe even a practice on how to behave in the world, like go do this, go serve a certain community. How beautiful,
Yeah.
right? And the student, knowing that these things would help heal, overcome, to overcome any limits within them, because that's really what sadhanas are. Can I go beyond this perceived limit, right? What will take me beyond this, so that I am limitless, so that I am more boundless, so that I can be and do what I am meant to be and become.
Wow.
And then the student would then do those practices. For example, the meditation practice. Maybe it's a mantra, and the mantra has to be done in a specific way at a specific time with specific reverence, with a specific bhavana. And so when done in all those ways, a certain amount of times, you kind of accomplish the goal of that sadhana. You become what is revealed is the power that was meant to be revealed. Now there's a lot more to it, but once you apply it, once you get there, then you go back. The teacher sees, okay, good job, right? We're shifted in some way, and I think that's the important thing. Like we're not talking about this, and we don't do these practices for more information. We do all of this for transformation. And so the sadhana itself, are we transformed? And if so, and we still have further to go, then a new sadhana would be given, both, to us and to this old school type student situation. The teacher would then give another mantra so that another layer could be peeled back, or another limit can be removed, so that we are more limitless, so that we live into the promise of who we are without, those old pesky things like doubt, fear, worry, resentment, jealousy, without the Arishad Vargas coming in around our spiritual heart, kind of limiting us. So how does a modern student find that? Go talk to your teacher. Find a teacher that you resonate with. That means you have to be a little more intuitive with, or a little more aware of how you do feel on the inside. You have to be considerate of your own, sensations and the felt sense of your body. You have to be willing participant to go out there and look. Seek and you shall find, the old book says. Ask and you shall receive. So just putting it out there. Yeah. I did write, I did put together a journal of the teachings that my teachers have given. And And it is somewhat a journal to get your shit together, right? And it's a journal of how to have a sadhana in this day and age. Now, in it are ways to use what your teachers have given. Like, you get a teacher and they give you a sadhana, you can use the Sadhana Journal. And that's my biggest recommendation, right? But this Sadhana Journal, it goes on to like ask you what it is that you want. What is it that your heart needs and wants to feel fulfilled? And be honest with yourself. It's probably not what your parents told you. It's probably not what your friends are doing. Can be, but it's highly likely that there's a longing inside you, listener, and you, Carole, that wants to be fulfilled. And when fulfilled, you both feel inside your own heart mind a sense of deep fulfillment, connection, joy. Those are those requirements, right? You walk with less fear, you have more joy, and what you want, what you get, the time. So you'll probably find if you go towards your heart's longing, though not easy, though maybe fraught with the unknown, you will start being and feeling more fulfilled. And the teachings even say not only you will feel that, but the whole universe will. That when you satisfy that, it said that the universe rejoices. Because, honey, you are a part of this universe. You're not separate from. And so when you do, it said the universe rejoices. And when you don't, when you ignore the call of your own heart, when you try to silence the sounds of your own spirit, it says that the universe weeps. Whoa, right? The teachings say that life is a gift and that you are part of that gift. You're not separate from the gift. You are part of that gift. Like, Carole, you're a gift to me. This podcast is a gift to all of us, right? We're a gift to life. However, there might be some blockage between both experiencing that and expressing that. And that's what a sadhana is there to ameliorate. And so the question in this, okay, I'm going to self-promote very quickly. Sadhana Journal, does this come out backwards?
I can't quite see it yet. Maybe bring it closer. There we go. Sadhana Journal, a simple yet powerful daily planner to craft a life well lived. Got it. Yes, please share about this because I've been like, yeah, it's just freaking amazing. So I'm really excited to talk about this. So let's dive into it.
So it's, again, it's a compilation of teachings that I've been given. And the first 40 pages explain and have you deep dive in inquiry and practices in understanding or maybe having better access to your intuition. Clearing out the cobwebs from you seeing it. So it's a step-by-step guide for you to access your heart of hearts. And then the rest of the manual, the rest of the journal is 3 months worth of daily check-in. And this includes your daily grind. Yeah. Like what you're going to do to get what you want. This is pedal to the metal, y'all. This is like, I gotta, go have that meeting. I gotta send that email. I get to go pick up the kids or go to the, have the groceries delivered or go get the groceries, all of this. It also has space like when you're going to nourish. This is important. Right? You taking care of you. You have to put that inside your day. This is the ultimate self-love. Alongside that, there's little checklists. Did you meditate? Did you do your practice?
Checklist.
You don't have to do all the checklists. Who does all the checklists?
Yeah. No, I definitely don't.
Blank. You don't do it, right?
Not all, yeah. I mean, and they'll switch, some days are different. And, there's a few that I pretty much always do. And then some days, yeah. And I like that you can write in also. So.
You write in, and here it is for me. I would go to my teachers, and I would get all these beautiful practices. Again, I'd go to, and then I'd come home. The first week, yeah, I'm doing it. Second week, I'm starting to forget both to do the practice and why I'm doing it. Life can get in the way. Life, all the busyness and all the beauty can come in, and I can forget to do what allowed me to see the sweetness. And so the reason I did this Sadhana Journal is because that kept happening. I would go to my teachers and I would come home, and after a week or two, I would forget to do the practices, and the sweetness would start dwindling. And so this is a 3-month journal to keep into the forefront of your mind both your practices, the remembrances to do them, and the outcomes in which you hope to manifest from doing your practices. So keeping them in the forefront of this busy, vritti-filled chitta mind is half the battle. And so there's places in the journal for you to remember what your goals are, remember what your intention is, and every day remembering. Not everybody needs every day. Maybe there are some people out there that this daily reflection would drive them crazy. Yeah. But for me and my little forgetful mind, or my little ADD mind, or my little like bunny hopping down the trail can get, on to the next thing, it's perfect for. And I know for so many clients that I've worked with and so many students that I've worked with, it is the exact thing to keep us on the path that is the most loving, that is the most freeing, that is the most liberating, and actually joyful. So again, I didn't invent any of the techniques in the Sadhana Journal. I just kind of put them together in a way that I needed. And then I found when I was working with clients that it benefited them too. And so now I offer it out there for those who might find benefit from it.
Yeah, and I can't speak enough, like highly enough about it, because it's just helped me so much. And I'm trying to think when did you come out with it? 2021 or 2020?
The beta version was 2020, okay. And then it's formed as it is today. Yeah, like 2021.
Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to think, because I feel like I've been doing it for almost 2 years now, and I mean, I love it because I feel like it keeps me on track, like you said, and I feel like there's a part of me that it makes me more excited to do some of these things. Also for some of my, like I love to give myself a check mark. Like I love to say that I did something and feel like that accomplishment first thing in the morning. So there's something about even just like giving myself that little check mark and like already feeling like I accomplished something within the day, which I personally enjoy that feeling. And then it also just keeps me on track throughout the day too, because I always write, like little reminders to myself even, or you have your transformational, oh gosh,
opportunity.
Yeah. And I think I do it a little bit differently than, one of the things you recommended, but I write down, like I took my original Sankalpa and now I write that there every single day. And it's just a reminder for me to like remember to feel this way and to do things that help me feel this way. And like when I start to get really anxious or like really overwhelmed within my business and things that I'm doing, I try to come back to what I wrote and remember that. And I feel like literally just by writing it down on the paper, it's like a commitment that I made to myself that day. So doing that every single day, I feel like I've noticed a difference as well. And I feel like, it's funny because like when you teach the Sankalpa, right, you do it for like 3 to 6 months, you cultivate it within that time period. And I think I had my first one for like a year and a half because it was very like, and it was an emotional one. So it was like hard to measure. But it's something that I feel like, maybe it took me longer, but it really, like I needed that time to kind of understand it and start to feel it. So I don't know. I just really love the daily concept to this. And I feel like it just helps me stay on track with everything else in my life. And I also love the evening that you do too, because I love being able to reflect on my day. And even if things like, and you even have like the obstacles that, help you grow or obstacles that provided growth. And I feel like writing those things down too, it helps me be like, okay, this was really hard today, but I can see the ways that I'm growing from this. And there's just something about that feels really like grounding and really supportive. And it's in this place too. And I'll also say too, like I always bring it when I travel and it helps me stay on track. And that's something you and I talked about and one of my soon to come podcasts of how to keep, a routine while you travel. It's so difficult to do. And sneak peek into that episode, this journal is one of the things that helps me. And I feel like without it, I don't know. It's just harder. So I don't know that I just I love it. And I've even got Scott to start doing it too. And, he's gone in waves of it. And I've definitely gone in waves a couple of times too, where I forget or things have gotten too busy, which is not a good excuse. But, he does it a lot too. And he really enjoys it. And for someone that this is a little bit newer for him, it's cool to kind of see him go through it and see how it's helped him in different ways too. So it's incredible. And I talk about it to everybody and on all my retreats, just because I think it just goes along with this yoga practice, obviously, right? And I feel like it just helps people anchor into why you're doing what you're doing within this life. So
you mentioned Sankalpa. So listeners, Sankalpa means the path from the heart, right? Vikalpa is the path that takes you away from your heart. So the Vikalpas would be like, I'm not good enough. That'll have to wait. I'll never have the time. These type thoughts are what we would consider vikalpas. And there's a lot to that. And sankalpa is what we really, really want. And maybe it's even challenging to say it out loud for fear of it not happening. We don't want anybody to judge us for not being able to accomplish it. How sad.
Yeah.
So if I remember, getting, again, this Sadhana Journal allows the space and the tools and the technology to access what it is your heart really wants to accomplish within the next, 3 to 18 months. Like you said, it took 1.5 years. And living into that, because, honey, you're worth it. And you are so worthy that your life matters. And nobody else is going to do this work for us. Nobody else can make us feel like our life matters as much as we can bring that to the forefront. And through the Sadhana Journal, accessing what it is that your heart wants, accessing what is truly important to you and your purpose in this life, and then starting to chip away at the things that we do on the daily, baby, on the frickin' daily, that keeps us from that sadhana or that sankalpa, that path from the heart. And so, remembering what we're up to, for many of us, it is helpful to check in 2 times a day. I have clients who put it in their phones as a reminder, 5 times a day. They have this little alarm going off. Oh, yeah, do that. Because these old seeds from the past, from the way, way past, are there. And so how to live into the now comes through repetition, comes through having routine. And so another part of this sadhana is the sister science to yoga, Ayurveda, is to develop a daily routine that is, that when followed, you commit to it. Babes, did you know that when you do what you say you're going to do, your self-confidence builds, your self-esteem gets stronger. And so when I take on, I'm going to do this daily routine of, in Ayurveda, for example, daily oil bath. Yeah, it's called Abhyanga. And this daily oil bath is me taking care of me. Every cell in my body is listening to every thought I have about it. And when I do this Abhyanga, and I'm like, you freaking matter. I love you. Thank you, little wrist, for all the ways that you support me in every chaturanga and every pick it up, take it back, and all, tiny wrist for whole rest of the body. And my wrist hears that. My body hears that and feels that and starts to feel love. And from that love, that deep, I appreciate you, it rises to the occasion of me and of life. So don't discount the small little daily things we do for self-love. It's the most important thing. So the Sadhana Journal has access points to developing your own dinacharya, your daily routine. And, I want to read just a little part of this because it's so moving, and it was taught to me by one of my teachers, Katie Silcox. And man, if you've not worked with her or read her book, she's got a new one coming out, but the one that she has out right now is Happy, Healthy, Sexy. So good on Ayurveda. But she goes, think about it this way, right? Every morning we wake up and we have to come to this place of my life matters. I hold myself as important and my purpose as important. I take care of my body. I protect my mind, and I take care of my emotions, and I take care of my spirit because I matter. And when I take that on, and when I see my friends and my clients take that on, the worry and the doubt starts to disperse. And we come into this place of a newfound power that's connected to something greater than us. And so the sadhana can also be described as routine. What do I do on the daily for my well-being? And that encompasses both very literal physical body, mental ease, heartfelt, coming into sweetness. But it also is like, what am I doing with my life? Am I being guided? Am I doing because of the love, or am I acting for the love? And acting always for the love is not really going to get us where we want to go. However, coming from the love will always, always take us where we want to go. And that's what the Sadhana Journal is about. Yeah.
Yeah, it is awesome. And everyone, you guys we'll definitely share the link to the journal at the bottom too. So you have an opportunity to check it out and perhaps use it within your own life. And again, I highly, highly recommend it. There's a lot of really beautiful practices in there, and even some other things that Johnna hasn't even talked about. So some little surprises and all sorts of just amazing things. And she has a lot of great resources in the back too. So some other great books and things you can check out also. But it's definitely a really, really powerful planner. So I'm really excited that we get to talk about it. So before we wrap up, just a couple more things, but I would love for you to share what is your personal sadhana right now, and how do you feel like you found that, or I guess what teacher gave it to you, what can you share on that?
Oh, okay. The little wrathful feral self wakes up in the morning, and I get myself to my altar, my candle, my readings, and I do my meditation. I do my japa mala and my contemplative practices. It's important for me through the contemplative practices to remember. And again, it's in the Sadhana Journal. There's a place where you can write down things that you're studying, from the Shastras, from the ancient texts, from scripture, that you want to remember for that day, right? And it's important. It's called svadhyaya in Sanskrit, to have studies. But it's not just to study to know. It means to study and apply to my life. So my sadhana includes, mornings, read what I'm reading, and currently I'm rereading the Yoga Sutras, and apply it to my life that day. It matters. It's made such a big difference. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've read the Yoga Sutras, but to come back to these ancient scriptures, whatever the scripture is, or whatever the teachings are, even if you've read them again and again, to come back and reapply. I nourish. I make sure my heart feels good. My mind feels good. I have a vision for the day. So I fill out my sadhana journal, vision of the day. I go about my day, and I try to notice, y'all, I'm not even joking. I try to notice the times that I feel delight. This is one of the practices. When you feel delight in life, be it you see a cute puppy, or someone holds the door open for you and you really need it at that moment, and you just are awash with thank you and gratitude. And it's tiny, tiny little things. When you notice something like that in your day happen, don't let it slip by. Don't let it just go. See if you can spend 20 seconds in that feeling of delight. This feeling of delight starts to, when you spend time with it, create a new neural wiring in your mind that has a positive bias. We're all hardwired with a negative bias. This is normal. This is natural. This is so that we stay alive. Our forefathers and foremothers had this so that we, as a lineage, arrived to this moment. Carole, you asked me, how did I get here? Well, my forefathers and foremothers had a little negative bias so that they could stay alive and get away from whatever danger. And that survival skill was good and needed. However, it's run amok where we are right now in society. And we need to build a little more positive bias. So again, the steps are when you notice delight, when you notice something delights you, stay with it for 20 seconds. Feel the feeling of delight embodied. Maybe you feel it in your tummy or in your throat or your heart. Maybe you feel it down your spine. Be with that sweetness for like 20 seconds, just throughout your day. And you'll start to build a more positive bias in life, meaning the filters that you see the world through will start to have more positivity, a more outlook on creativity, and more outlook on like what's possible. That you start to walk around like an alive person, not so much like a dead person that has to watch out for every fear that comes. Yeah. And so this is how I want to live my day. I want to live with enthusiasm, with delight, able to handle the trembly parts, able to handle with more and more ease and confidence the difficult parts. Those difficult parts, they're not going to go away, but how, of course, I handle them is what can change, and what yoga has changed in my life, and what sadhana continues to make manifest more ease.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love that. Yeah, thank you. I always get so uplifted just hearing those things. And I think it's just always nice to, I don't know, it's just always interesting to hear what other people do in their practices and how they get, rooted into their heart and mind and all of those things. So embody. But yeah, so thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else that you would like to leave our listeners with? Any other just something we didn't touch on, anything I didn't ask, or any other little message you'd like to share?
I think I want people to do that delight practice. So I'm just going to reinforce that. Take the time. And thank you very much for listening and being with me. And thank you so much, Carole, for having me on your beautiful podcast. And I look forward to seeing you in Ashtanga soon. Actually, I could say, come to Ashtanga. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. We meet Mysore style. It's a traditional Ashtanga yoga practice, and you can find more information at johnnayoga.com. I'm sure that'll be in the show notes. And we'll see you soon.
Yeah. And I would also love for you to, I wanted you to share any other like offerings or anything you have going on, any ways that people can find you and connect with you. I know you have some really cool like courses and trainings coming up, as well as a retreat. So if there's anything that you want to share on that to invite people to, I'd love for you to do that as well.
Oh, you're so awesome. Thank you. So with the retreat, there's one spot left.
Awesome. Go get it, guys. You won't regret it. Go get that spot.
Go get that spot. We're going to Portugal. Another teacher, Ryan Harris, good friend, brother, Ryan Harris and I are teaching a retreat in Portugal, March of 2024. So you can check that out on johnnayoga.com. And I will have a course on Yoga Nidra coming out in the next week or two on online. It's an online course. So you can practice these deep yogic practices. They do satisfy the definition of yoga in your own home. I think it's important to do Yoga Nidra in a place of relaxation. So I've chosen to do it online for that reason. So be on the lookout for that course coming out. And I have a few workshops coming through that's going to benefit both the Trini Foundation, which is run by Taylor Hunt. Look it up, Taylor Hunt Trini Foundation. So be on the lookout for a workshop on that level, and another one coming, more to come in the future. Another workshop coming with a group of teachers and benefiting a nonprofit here in town.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, anyone listening, I highly recommend joining anything that Johnna does, especially if you are a yoga teacher. If you want to do a training and she has anything coming up, I highly recommend doing a training with her. And then if you're a yoga student as well, just if you're anything, I just recommend doing something with Johnna. And one thing I will say is that she does a great job of just turning like these ancient teachings into, or she just helps people understand these ancient teachings and like how to apply them to your life. And it's something that I feel like I have such a better grasp of yoga philosophy and the sutras because of Johnna and the way she has taught it and the way she's helped me apply it to my own life. So if that's something you're interested in, Johnna is definitely your girl for that. So I highly recommend her. And go ahead, Johnna. Did you want to say something else?
That's great.
No, you're good. Okay. Awesome. But thank you so much for listening, everybody. And Johnna, thank you so much for joining. I'm probably going to have you back on again because there's a million other things I would love to talk to you about and ask you about. I had to like hold back in here not to get sidetracked on some other things. But yeah, thank you so much. And to the listeners, thank you so much for listening. Until next week, keep showing up as your truest, most authentic self.